What's up, everybody? It's Carpo again. I'm just going to ramble for a little bit about con artists. Sometimes I'll take notes before I make a video, or at least think about it for a few hours while I'm doing things, but it's just something that popped into my head and I really wanted to cover it now. Of course, I made videos in the past about charlatans and thieves and liars, and I have, of course, an issue with the people charging $200 for a 1-hour phone call session where they supposedly heal you of all your diseases, that kind of stuff, phone healing. And, it's not to dismiss any type of a higher energy. Here's what I believe. I kind of think of us as like children. Many of these, charlatans that believe what they say as almost like children saying they understand calculus just because they have learned some basic math. In the sense that it takes years and years of practice, say for a monk to achieve what they consider to be a humble state of being. But in the Western culture, everything is about how you look. The complete opposite of the simple, robes and meditations and chants, but yet using those types of romanticized versions of what ancient histories and cultures were like. I'm not going to get into that aspect. That's not really what this is about. Not about Buddhism at all or anything like that. But I was just thinking about how the Western world, we justify often being corrupt, being crooked, being greedy and selfish as if it's just part of the world. I've heard it, there's a certain line where you have to agree to an extent. Now, here's an example, okay? This is when I first, what inspired me to make this video was I got caught for like an hour watching this video this morning. It was like Channel 2, early 2000s from this guy who goes out and exposes, corrupt business owners or bad practices. Say contractors who screwed somebody out of a bunch of money, and then they, do the actual investigative journalism. So as much as people, here's the one thing, as much as people talk about fake news and there were times when the media was actually covering stories, and there are journalists out there who have actually uncovered corrupt people within their own communities, shamed them, or, had them pay back the people they owed and whatnot. And it's fascinating to think that, the media is so bashed, but really they're getting more done than Congress. They're getting more done than these, some of these diplomats that, these long drawn-out processes of trying to, somebody makes a complaint about a contractor, and then it goes through this whole 2-year process. Maybe they have to take a guy to court. But if a journalist exposes it instantly, it's all over the news and everybody pays attention. So as much as the media can be corrupt, and these days is horribly worse than it was, at least 15, 20 years ago when I was watching the media still, they had some good stories. But that's also beside the point. Some of the people they exposed were people, say one guy who was merely buying flowers from flower shops and reselling them at a higher price. And I was thinking, just like everybody in the comments, I thought the same thing. Hey, that's business. If people are too dumb to research what they're buying, and there's a market to fill for a certain service or product, then there will be people who will do that. It's up to us as the individuals in that case. We can't be protected or have laws against people making money. If people are going to make money, they're going to do it. It's up to us to ask ourselves, is the service that we're getting worth the price that's rendered? And in other words, what type of, when you go into, and I'm not going to defend doctors here because there's a lot of people are these days especially, are very resistant to trusting their doctors, and I am one. I don't have a doctor, and I prefer natural remedies, herbs, and finding my own way through, I would rather meditate than take a pill for anxiety. I would rather take a natural painkiller, than an opioid. But it doesn't mean that doctors don't have their role. My point being that a doctor, who goes through several years of medical school to get their degree, regardless of whether they've learned the right things or not, or they have continuing education, the fact is they put a lot of time and money into what they have. And that's why a doctor costs so much. Well, of course the system's corrupted to where it costs way more than it should. I'm not defending the medical industry. It's completely corrupt. But what I'm saying is if you compare that to a modern, a new age healer who claims that they can heal you for a half-an-hour session for $200 over the phone, And you start to wonder, well, it would cost me less to go to the doctor, but I want to trust this charlatan who is posing as a healer. And then the questions start to arise, you know, if I really feel better after this conversation with this person, you know, is this psychosomatic? Am I healing myself just through the placebo effect? And I'll tell you, the more that you consider that, the harder it is to distinguish. In other words, there's a reason why people say ignorance is bliss. Because if everyone around you is telling you positive things and giving you props and you believe it, then you can manifest that in your actions. You know, it's not like, and that's another example, this whole law of attraction that you'll hear, that, you know, if you just want it, you can get it, and that we're all born with, you know, the equal chance and opportunities. It's all bullshit. You know, we have to fight hard and work hard for what we want. But what type of it seems like the people that make the most money through those, you know, often make them through those types of nefarious means by blatantly ripping people off. And there's a huge, it's very difficult to know whether somebody really believes what they're saying or whether they're just trying to convince you to believe what they're saying. And there is a difference there. Like I said, the other day there was a quote I read, it was you know, it's not a lie if the person believes it to be true, or if the person telling it believes it to be true. And that is a fact. You know, if you I mean, and we can see this all around. It's not like Christians and Muslims, right? They have their own points of view. Is one entire group a liar or the other? No, of course not. Can both of them be the, you know, religion's probably not the best example. But hopefully you know what I'm getting at. The idea that it's not so cut and dry as one's right and one's wrong, but, you know, in that case, I think both are wrong. But anyhow, back to the point, I guess, about charlatans, about liars and thieves. It's one of the things that really bothers me the most about society, because I feel like we're all damaged by it. So we do try to justify it by saying it's just business as usual. And in the Western world, we really have kind of romanticized this idea of take what you can get. And, you know, this whole frantic Wall Street buying and selling, and not even doing so by legitimate means, like insider trading, things like that, where you're well aware that other people are being affected negatively, and in a way it's a form of cheating, but a person wants to justify that cheating by saying, well, I have to feed my family, or, you know, I have to make some money too. So anyway, I'm the first person to, I mean, I can let things go in life. I've been ripped off by people, and perhaps that's why I have the opinion I do on, you know, thieves. But I've never bought into some bullshit charlatan lie. You know, I'm well enough to know that if somebody's going to sell a pendant that they claim, you know, protects you from something, some electromagnetic radiation, to research that material and say, well, what is this? Or if a person is going to, and this isn't just New Age. I'm attaching it to that only because I had mentioned it the other day. But we see this in all segments of society. I was a contractor for years, and I did my best to charge honest wages for what I did. And I probably didn't make a whole lot because of that. But it's unfortunate that there are, you know, for every one person who's honest and trying to be honest, there are, you know, at least one more who wants to make as much as they can and doesn't care about the customer. And that made it hard for me, because people don't sometimes trust carpenters or contractors any more than they trust their mechanics. And I have that issue with mechanics because I've been ripped off so many times by mechanics. So I guess my point is, do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, then don't do it. And don't try to take advantage of other people's lives and steal from other people's income in order to justify, you know, whatever lifestyle you want to live. You know, it's all hard work. Everybody works hard. Even the person who, in the, you know, from, you know, who goes into a rich neighborhood and steals from rich people thinking, well, they're rich, they don't care. You know, that's a completely, you know, it's a horrible attitude. And there's no justification, no matter how rich someone is. It's like when I was a kid and I used to shoplift from stores, and I would say, well, you know, my values would never allow me to steal from a friend or a family member, ever. But I justified stealing from stores because they have insurance policies. And because, you know, whatever, they'll write it off. it took me until I was an adult to realize, well, sure, they write it off. Then they have to raise prices because of it. It's just like the one guy who commits insurance fraud, for example. That's something some people would justify by saying, hey, it's okay. You know, whoa, light went out. People have to make their money, you know, and if I can't get paid, then I guess that's not going to work. There we go. Stinking lights. At any rate, insurance fraud would be something that a person might make off with a lot of money short term, but in the long run, insurance rates go up and up and up on other people. So I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, you know, let's all just try to be a little more honest. I don't agree with all the rules and laws that we live within, and of course it's frustrating, but there's a reason why we have a system that we do. It's not because it's all been imposed on us. A lot of it's been, you know, there's a reason why we punish people who do wrong. It's because we all agree that we can't have that in our society. So I don't believe in execution, but do I believe in people who have executed others? And why should they live kind of attitude? It becomes very difficult, you know. It's a philosophical discussion. Everybody has to have with their own brain to what's right and wrong. That's all. So for now, I'm going to do what's right for me and turn off the camera because I've run out of time on my phone and I'm out of space on my